This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, Rabbi Isai. So we have two parts to this. First, today we have the privilege to go to some of the Mekaymes HaKadoshim, as they call it, in a tri-state area, pretty close by, here in Queens. I'm going to tell you over a vart now from our Rosh Hashiva, my Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Henach Leibowitz, I had this chus to be in his Shiur. He was my Mesader Kedushin. He was Yehuda's the Sandak. He was the son of Rabbi David Leibowitz. Rabbi David was considered one of the greatest Talmidim of the Alter Slavatka, and basically he came to America to build Torah in America. Rav Pam, who was the Talmud of Rabbi David Leibowitz, Pam, the Rosh Hashiva of Tarvadas, he was Rav David's Talmud. In fact, Rav David broke away from Tarvadas. Rav David was the first Rosh Hashiva of Tarvadas. And didn't work out. Rav David started his own yeshiva, and Rav Pam wanted to come with him, and Rav David, prophetically said, "Don't come with me, you have your place in Tarvadas." He's a bacher, a young kid. But somehow Rav David knew that, Rav Pam one day would become Rosh Hashiva of Tarvadas. So anyway, I want to give you a little flavor for the derech of Slabotka. This is the way they learned in Slabotka, where there's no drush. You're not allowed to say drush. They distance themselves from drush like it would be fire. You could only say something, not a pshat in Chazal. You could only say the pshat in Chazal. It has to be absolutely muchruch in the words of Chazal that this was their intention. That we're not on the level to try to stick in our own ideas and interpretations in Chazal. We have to try to figure out what are Chazal telling us, not what's my idea, and let me see if I could fit it in. So in the yeshiva, and where I learned, there's no such thing as a vart. You know how to say a vart. What do Chazal tell you? Anyway, they're very insistent on this mahalach. This was a mahalach in Slabotka. So I'll just give you a little bit of a flavor for it. And I'm going to say something over from the Chafetz Chaim. We're going to have the schus to be at the Chafetz Chaim's wife's kever. How the Chafetz Chaim's wife got to America is a different story. But basically there's a Mishnah Bikurim. We know Parshas Kisavai speaks about the mitzvah Bikurim. And the Mishnah says, Kol balei umniyos oimdim mipeneyem. All workers would stand up and greet the people who would bring the Bikurim. V'shayalem b'shleimam, they would greet them. Nu, vasmachster, how you doing? V'aimrim lahem, they would say to them, Achinu, our brothers, anshe makom ploini, you come from so-and-so, you're coming from the 5 towns, you come from Cedarhurst, bayachem l'shalom. And that was the greeting that the Bali Amnus, so you had people who were working in Eretz Yisrael, and they would interrupt their jobs, even though they had a boss, they would interrupt their jobs to greet the Mevi Bikurim. Now that's problematic, because the halacha is, if you're getting paid by the hour, you're not even allowed to stop and say, oh, Shama, somebody's coming into your office. If you get paid by the hour, you're not allowed to stop your job and say, oh, Shalom Aleichem, how you doing, Vasmachster. Again, Bizman Hazeh, a person has to basically abide by what is normal practice in their job. But at least Medina the Gemara, if you have a job by the hour, you may not interrupt even to say Shalom Aleichem. Actually, it's more chamer than in middle of Kriyashma. If you're a worker, it's more chamer than middle of Kriyashma. Middle of Kriyashma, shoylem ibnei hakava, ibnei hayira, not if you get paid by the hour. Anyway, so they're good.
Consultant, not full-time employee. That's what you mean.
If you get paid by the hour, you're not allowed to say hello to somebody.
So it's consultant. Full-time employee doesn't.
What do you mean consultant? Yeah, if you get paid a salary by the year, but even so, if you're expected to work 9 to 5, so that means you're expected to work 9 to 5. You can't say hello to somebody. That's Medina the Gemara. How that plays into 2018, you're allowed to do within reason. No, normal behavior. Somebody comes by, halacha, you're allowed to say hello, how you doing, but you can't get involved in a conversation. It's not your own time. Okay, but that's not what today's subject is about. There are 2 Gemaras in Shas. Kedushin Lamed Gimel, Chulin Nun Daled Amud Beis. Says the Gemara, Ein Bali Omnios. Says the Gemara, Rashan Lamoid Mibnei Talmidei Chachamim B'Shasha Oiskim B'Malachtahim. The halacha is, if you're working and a Talmid Chacham passes by, you're not allowed to stand up for them. Why? Stealing from the boss. You're interrupting 3/4 of a second. It's halacha. Even though you're in the middle of Kriya Shema, you may have to stand up, but if you're in the middle of working, you're not allowed to stand up. Why? It's Geneva. Frak the Gemara, that's the Mishnah on Bikurim. So the Gemara, 2 places in Shas, Kedushin Lamed Gimel, Chulin Nunda. I'll just say that in our yeshiva, in Chafetz Chaim, Rav David and Rav Henach, if you could say there's one midah that they emphasize more than anything else, it's midas ha'emes. It's midas ha'emes. There are many stories, I could tell you, incredible stories. Firstly, the yeshiva had an opportunity, a matching offer, that if they raised $10,000, they're talking about 40 years ago, they raised $10,000, then somebody would match. So they raised it. The problem is one of the checks that they raised bounced. So after it bounced, they didn't have $10,000 anymore. So the question is, could they go to the matching offer and say, look, we raised $10,000. Rav Henach would not take the money. He returned every penny. He returned every penny. In my time, when I was in the yeshiva, Verizon was going to offer the yeshiva something like $100,000 to put an antenna, cell phone antenna, on the roof of the yeshiva. And based on the knowledge they had, it would not be harmful to anybody. But the yeshiva said, we don't know for sure that it's not going to harm the Talmidim. Can't take it. It's not emes. You can't. If I'm responsible for the Talmidim, somebody offered a tremendous amount of money to the yeshiva to have a Holocaust memorial in the yeshiva. It's such a beautiful idea, right? He said it's sheker. Why is it sheker? It's a yeshiva, it's not a Holocaust Memorial Museum. To take money under the guise of memorializing the Holocaust, you're not allowed to do that. He held it was not emes. This is a yeshiva. We're going to make a museum out of a corner of the yeshiva to be able to take money. Every penny that ever came into the yeshiva was like the standards of emes. Well, the yeshiva traditionally has a very hard time, meeting the salary. But the nisim that the yeshiva had, I don't know, maybe you've heard the story. The way the yeshiva had, when I started in the yeshiva was on Metropolitan Avenue. The yeshiva was in Forest Hills. My dorm room was on Metropolitan Avenue on the top of a store, Carl's Plumbing. Okay, it was not the lap of luxury. My mother sent me a bag of rugelach the first day. I come back and someone had taken a bite out of every single rugel, and then I realized it wasn't a person. Okay, that's what we're talking about. But then all of a sudden we moved. When I became a chassan, the yeshiva moved to Kew Garden Hills. How did it happen? Traditionally, yeshiva gave out calendars every year. The famous Chavetz Chaim calendars hanging on the wall over there, right in the front. It's blocked by the mechitza there. The Chavetz Chaim calendar. It's like from 80 years ago, So there was a homeless guy that they used to send the Chavetz Chaim calendar to. And even there was a discussion, should we continue sending it to him? Like he doesn't have a house. He lived in a car. He got in his car. He had a P.O. box. And he got it. And the guy passed away, homeless guy. And he left the yeshiva $20 million to split between them and the Diskin Orphan Home. And the family said, took the yeshiva to court. They said he was Meshuggah. It belongs to us. So the yeshiva says, he wrote that the reason he's leaving it to the yeshiva and to Diskin Orphan Home is because they're the only people who care about him. They're the only people who send him information. So the family said they're going to drag it out in court and you're not going to get anything. So the yeshiva settled on $7 million. Mamish min hashamayim. So here, they never took a penny that wasn't 100%, and here they basically won the lottery, Anyway, so this is the Gemara's question. The Gemara asks that really workers cannot stand up for Talmidei Chachamim. The Gemara asks, but the Mishnah says you're allowed to stand up for Meviyei Bikurim. So it's a stira. The workers, people who are working in the fields in Eretz Yisrael, they're allowed to stop what they're doing to greet Meviyei Bikurim, and they're not allowed to stop what they're doing to greet Talmidei Chachamim. So it's a stira. So says the Gemara, Bayu re'ei kama chaviva mitzvah b'shaita. Look how chashuv a mitzvah is at the time you do the mitzvah. Sharei mipneihem oimdim. You're allowed to stand up for someone doing a mitzvah, and you're not allowed to stand up for a Talmid Chacham. So you see, at the time of the performance of a mitzvah, it's even on a greater madrega than a Talmid Chacham. That's Adkan. That's the Gemara in Chulin and Kedushin. And then the Gemara says, no, it's not a raya. Really, a Talmid Chacham is greater than someone who's doing a mitzvah. Why can't you stand up for Talmid Chacham and you can't stand up and you're allowed to stand up for the Meviyei Bikurim? The answer is you're not allowed to stand up for anybody because it's stealing. The only thing is we're afraid. Listen to this, says the Gemara. Dilma kedei shaloi tehei nimtza machshilan la'asad lavai. We're afraid if you don't stand up for the Meviyei Bikurim, you're going to cause them to stumble in the future. They won't come again. So Talmid Chacham, you're not to stand up for. Why? Because it's stealing. It's stealing from the boss. You can't interrupt your work to stand up with Talmid Chacham. But for the Mevi Bikurim, you're allowed to stand up. Why? Because if we don't show respect to the Mevi Bikurim, they're not going to do the mitzvah again. The lashon of the Gemara is you're being machshil the Mevi Bikurim. They won't come again if you don't smile to them properly and you don't give them encouragement. They won't come again. Remember, Rav Miller once said that a certain mispala left his shul, and he wrote a message to the board that the rabbi did not smile sufficiently wide enough to me. Right? So people get very insulted if you don't show them proper respect, you don't show them the proper kavod. The Mevi Bikurim would not come again if the workers in Eretz Yisrael would not honor them. So the Rosh Hashiva asked the following question. Let's think about this for a moment. If let's say the workers would not stand up for the Mevi Bikurim, and then the Mevi Bikurim would not come next time, whose fault is it? Whose Avera is it? It's the Mevi Bikurim's Avera. They have a chiyuv to bring Bikurim. The workers are not allowed to interrupt. You hear this? Think about what's going on. The worker is not allowed to interrupt. He can't stand up for a Talmid Chacham, and Me'ikar Adin, he's not allowed to stand up for the Mevi Bikurim. But the Mevi Bikurim has a responsibility to bring his Bikurim, whether he likes the way he's treated in Eretz Yisrael or not, he has a responsibility to bring the Bikurim. So why does the Gemara say that if the workers don't stop to honor the people bringing Bikurim, the workers are being machshel them? They're being machshel themselves. It's their own problem. So Rav Shiva said that we learn from this Gemara that if a person has the opportunity to be mechazik another yid, and by not being mechazik them, the yid says, you know what, next time I'm not going to do it, even though technically it's his fault, it's not my fault. I have a responsibility to mechazik him. Maybe even in a situation where Me'ikar Hadin, I can't. But if I have the opportunity to strengthen someone, to encourage someone, and I don't, I am at fault. The obligation, the responsibility on a yid to encourage another yid. That to the point where if by you not encouraging somebody, somebody comes to a shul, and after davening you didn't go over them, Shalom Aleichem, where are you coming from? Maybe you want to join us. It's a nice shul over here. And because of that, he's going to go to another shul where they talk. And this guy's going to talk for the rest of his life because you weren't friendly to him. Not during davening, after davening. It's on you. All of his talking is going to be on your shoulders. Because you could have encouraged him. You could have said a nice word. Somebody davens for the Amud. And you don't say, Morning, what an amazing daven. Mamish like Kusavitsky. There's a Rav, Savitsky. He said, I'm not Kiss Savitsky. I'm Mamish Savitsky, So if you don't encourage somebody, it's on you. But it's the guy's fault, if he doesn't want to continue doing it, so he doesn't, that's his problem. No, you have an achrayus to be mechazik him. So Rosh Shiva put this together with another medrash, a medrash Tanchuma. A very peculiar medrash, it would seem to us. The medrash says like this, Amar Abrachia, there was a story in our neighborhood with a spirit. There was a spirit. And the spirit would hang out on the well. Another spirit came he wanted to hang out on the well, and he told the first guy, get lost, I would like to hang out on the well here. So there was a chassid, his name was Yosi Ish Tsaisor, and the first spirit revealed himself to him. And he said, Rabbi, I'm hanging out here all day, the nighttime, the evening, the afternoon, I never heard anyone. And this ruach, this new spirit is coming on me from another place, and he wants to kick me out, and he's going to hurt people. So Rabbi said, what do you want from my life? I'm not an expert in spirits. He said, what should I do? So the first spirit said, take your staff and go to him in the afternoon and say, we are Noitseach, we're going to win. And the spirit's going to run away. So Yosi Ish Seisar did that, and he chased away the second spirit. Says the Medrash, the spirit did not leave until they saw a little bit of blood floating on the top of the well. When the Chachamim heard about it, they said, if something that wasn't created for any support, meaning, what's a spirit? What's a spirit? A spirit, it needs encouragement, it needs chizuk. I'm feeling low now, I need divarim mechuzakim. No, a spirit that doesn't need chizuk, it needs chizuk. If even a spirit that doesn't need chizuk needs chizuk, b'nei adam alachas kama v'kama. Therefore, David says, Yishlach Ezracha Mikodesh Umitzion Yisadeka. Says the Rosh Hashiva, it is Pasha that a human being has no control over spirits. And whatever they say, it's Loimal of Loimoired. And Bevadai, the spirit itself knew that if the guy comes and says, Noitzeach Shalanu, Noitzeach Shalanu, it's not going to get chizuk. But nevertheless, even a spirit could feel down, and even a spirit could get encouragement. A human being, who every single human being needs chizuk. The Gemara says, Hakol tzrichim chizuk, afilu sefer Torah shebehechal. That means, if you're a father, it is your achrayus to mechazik your children. If you're a child, it's your achrayus to mechazik your mother. Your mother made good food this week? Like okay, or like really good? Well, how would you rate it, 1 to 10? 8? So, you go home, you say, Ma, you made such good food this week, I really appreciate it. You make her feel good. You're giving her chizuk. That's your responsibility, right? How old are you? 14? 15? 16? 15? It's your achray. You go home, you mechazik your mother. First of all, it's worth it. You'll end up winning it. You'll get out of it. Next week will be 9. I'm telling you. Next week will be 9. But I'm sure it was 10. But that's our responsibility. So that's some of the limudim that the Rashi would bring out. Again, he's not saying a chidush and sticking it into the words of Chazal. He's bringing out of Chazal what the Chazal are saying.
How could you do that to the left? Is it like it's allowed?
Oh, apparently Chazal say that it's so important that it could overcome the inyan of Bali Amnuis are now to do their malacha. Okay, we're going to hold it here in a 5-minute zach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.